Hey there, Stampin' friends. Randy here from Stampin' with Randy. Today I have a card for you using the Hand-Drawn Blooms stamp set. The color palette I got for this card is from Ruth from Artful Stamping with Ruth. She used this analogous color combination to create one of her cards. Analogous colors are a combination of colors that are right next to each other on the color wheel, such as red, orange, yellow, or green, blue, purple. So I've used this color combination to create a card for us today. Let's go ahead and get started. The colors I'm using are Real Red, Poppy Parade, Pumpkin Pie, Mango Melody, Crushed Curry, and Daffodil Delight. All of these strips are cut at 7/8 inch width, but I didn't measure the length, and you'll see why in just a minute. We're also going to be using this image here, the flower and then the stems image from the Hand-Drawn Blooms bundle. So let me get this stuff out of our way here. And I just have a piece of Whisper White cardstock cut at 4 by 5 1/4. We're going to use some Tombow Mono Multi-Liquid Glue to help us, and I'm going to use the thicker end. I'm just going to spread this around on my cardstock. I don't want too much, it'll seep between the seams in my paper, but I also don't want too little so that I have pieces that are lifting up. So kind of pay close attention to the edges here. And then I'm just gonna squish this all around. This thicker end is great for spreading your adhesive out on your paper. Okay, so put that to the side. I'm gonna start with my darkest color, this is Real Red, and I'm just going to put it on here, kind of lining it up at that edge. And next I'll go Poppy Parade. Just gonna butt them up right next to each other and give it a good press. Pumpkin Pie. Mango Melody. Daffodil Delight. I'm sorry, Crushed Curry first. And then Daffodil Delight. All right. I'll give that a good press, and then I'm going to flip it over and just use my snips to trim off this excess. All right, so now I've got a page that looks like this. We're going to be embossing today, so you're going to want to use your embossing buddy on this page. The embossing buddy helps remove static and any oils from our fingerprints that the embossing powder could stick to. And I've had this forever. It lasts a really long time. I haven't had to replace it in my almost 14 years of stamping. I have those stamps positioned on our Stamparatus. I'm using 2 different plates today just to make it a little bit easier for me. And I'm going to position this down here. And I'm just going to double check once I put this magnet on. It's a very strong magnet to hold that. I'm just going to double check to see that I've got it in the right spot about for my stamps. Okay, I may want to move it down just a hair. There, that looks a little bit better. So I'm going to be using my Versamark stamp pad to ink this up. This is a watermark stamp pad that is very sticky, and it stays wet a little bit longer than our regular stamp pads. It is also clear, so you could use it just as a watermark stamp, or you could use it for embossing. So I inked up my first one. The reason I put this on my Stamparatus, a couple of reasons, is for exact placement, but also if I needed to go back and re-ink this because it didn't get certain areas very well, I don't have any problem lining it up again. It will be exact every time so long as my paper doesn't move with my magnet. I think we've gotten that one pretty well. Let's do our stems here. I'll flip that over. And hopefully I lined those up pretty well there. Okay. So now, I did get it off a little bit, but we'll see if I can remedy that towards the end. So now I'm going to move my Stamparatus out of the way and bring in some white embossing powder. And I'm just going to sprinkle that on there. Okay, and I'll bring in some scrap paper here. Tap that off. And you can see here where I didn't quite get it to line up exactly, but it'll be okay. I have a way to fix that at the end. Okay, so I'm just going to move this embossing powder off to the side and dump it back into my container. And then I'm going to go heat set this with my heat tool. I didn't think you'd want to hear all the noise from that. So I'm going to go heat set this with my heat tool. If you've never done that before, it is a heat tool that turns on. It's similar to a blow dryer, but heats up much, much more than a blow dryer. And also it'll melt the embossing powder. You'll know that it's melted because it'll kind of turn. It will get shiny and it's kind of impressive. So let me go do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so here we've got our embossed piece, and I don't know if you can see that kind of shine on there now that it's fully embossed. Okay, this is going to layer on a piece of Misty Moonlight cardstock, just like that. And I'm going to be using some of our Stampin' Seal today. This is our new adhesive from Stampin' Up, and I'm going to just run that along the edges. Sometimes with embossed cardstock, it does warp a little bit, so I'm going to make sure to put some here in the middle. And then I'm just going to line this up on here. Okay. Next, I have a little scrap piece of paper. This measures about 3/8 of an inch by 2 inches approximately. And I'm going to use this to help or to stamp my sentiment on. I'm using the Thank You sentiment from that same Hand Drawn Blooms stamp set. We're going to use our Misty Moonlight ink color. So I'm just going to tap that on there. Line this up on my grid paper so that it's somewhat straight. And I'm going to aim for the middle, and I'm going to stamp right down and stamp up. That was a little high, but I think I can make it work. Then I'm just going to take my paper snips. I'm going to let this dry a little bit. I can still see that the ink is a little bit wet there. I want to smudge it with my fingers. Oop. So I'm going to take my snips and I'm going to just make some tails at the end of this paper. I just cut once a little bit in the center, and then I'm going from each corner to meet up in the middle there. Okay, I'll turn it over, do the same on the other side. Whoops, this little piece of paper just doesn't want to stay in my hands today. All right, so that's what it looks like here. And then I'm going to turn it over, and I've got some of my Stampin' Dimensionals, the edging that goes around. I hate wasting it, so I always use it. I'm just going to cut a little snippet of that out, stick that on here in the center, peel off that backing. I'm gonna try to line it up here, just like that. Okay, so now after I heat embossed, I wasn't too concerned about that little gap there. It's not super noticeable to me. You know, if it bothers you, you can definitely start over and line it up again. I do have a stepped up card, so I did the same card, but this time I used the edge from the Ornate Borders dies to create this edge around. I just lined it up and then ran it through my Big Shot a couple times, or whatever stamp cutter you have. And then I also did the thank you again, but this time I'm not sure if you can see. I put some foam adhesive behind both layers, the thank you layer and the ombre layer there. So basic card, stepped up a little bit with some dies and some foam adhesive. I hope you liked our video today. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Be sure to subscribe and we'll see you next time.